Hello everybody, my name is Kelly Hatcher, and I don't really have any nicknames, so I usually just go by Kelly, or since we're all in the education field, I know a lot of us just go by our last name, so I do often get just called Hatcher or Hatch, and I will answer to any of that. I currently work as an 8th grade math teacher and 9th grade algebra teacher at Upson Lee Middle School, which is located in Thomaston, Georgia. In 2019, I graduated with my bachelor's degree in middle grades math and ELA from Valdosta State University, and in 2022 in December I graduated with my master's degree in middle grades math and science, also from Valdosta State University. I have a couple of different previous employments and occupations that I think helped lead to me becoming the teacher that I am today. Two of those were actually in a theme park. So the first theme park I worked in was Disney World in Orlando, Florida, and I did a 6-month internship while I was in college during my sophomore year. I think that Disney really helped to make me a quick thinker. I had to think on my feet quite a bit. I had to learn how to be a team player and how to get along with everyone, how to be very patient, and how to learn to adjust when things didn't go as you might have expected them to go. After leaving Disney World, I moved back to Valdosta State to continue my education, and I got a job in Valdosta at a smaller theme park called Wild Adventures, where I started as a team member, moved quickly to team lead, and eventually became a supervisor in the park. I had to handle things like employee disputes. I was in charge of scheduling and staffing. I was in charge of ordering for multiple businesses throughout the park, making sure that everything was always organized and on time and adequate where they were needed. And I think that really helped, maybe not so much in the education part of what I do, but in the patience and the thinking on my feet and being able to adjust when things happen and things go differently. The third job I held prior to, and honestly while still teaching, other than those two theme parks, was that I was a camp counselor at a camp in northern Tennessee called Camp Sycamore Hills. Camp Sycamore Hills is a Girl Scout camp that specializes in a horse riding program as well as being an adventure camp. Working as a camp counselor taught me more about children, especially at the middle grade level, since I opted in to work with middle grade level children than I ever could have expected. I was on call with those children 24/7 basically. They would arrive on Sunday around 10 a.m. and I would have them until Friday at about 6 p.m. And so I had them from the time that they woke up in the morning, which was around 6, until the time that we went to bed at night, which was between 10 and 11. And I learned so much from that about just how middle schoolers think, how they act, and what goes on inside their minds that I never would have learned in a normal classroom setting. I decided to pursue a degree in instructional technology because it appears that technology is the future of education. With the amount of technology that we have started implementing in our classrooms and the amount of technology that we have rolled out in recent years, there's really no slowing down at this point, and it would be best for me to go ahead and get out in front of it and learn how to implement it and what best practices there are out there already for my classroom, so I can be a little ahead of the curve and understand what's going on and what's coming prior to it getting to my classroom, so that I am the sage on the stage when it comes to being able to answer questions that my students have and maybe even questions that my peers have as well. I enrolled in this photography course to learn how to better use photography in the classroom, what the photography may look like in the classroom and the creative process. I am very interested in learning how to properly use photography in a mathematics classroom and how that could lead to more extended learning for my students. When the pandemic hit, I had just graduated from college. Only a couple months prior, I graduated from college in December of 2019 and began teaching in January of 2020. So when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, it blew up my entire life. I went from seeing hundreds of people a day to seeing the 3 people that I lived with as I had just moved back home, trying to get back on my feet after being in college and accepting a job working in my hometown. So I spent a lot of time on the phone with friends and extended family. I spent a lot of time on a Zoom call, in a video call, watching movies, playing games, and trying to get as much social as I could. In my professional practice during the pandemic, I suddenly, during these years that I was supposed to be learning how to properly be a teacher, as you learn the most about teaching in your first year, first 2 years maybe of teaching, I wasn't in a classroom. I wasn't in front of students, and I had no idea what I was doing as I was freshly 22 and right out of college. So I spent a lot of time pushing information and work out into Google Classroom, being attached to a computer at all times to answer remind messages, emails, video calls. I had to be present for countless online meetings and things that just never seemed to have any answers. And I mean, I managed, but it only really seems like the last couple of years have started to kind of stabilize. Like, I don't truly believe I've ever had a normal year teaching. When it comes to the course learning objectives, I feel like I have some strengths in some and some weaknesses in others. When it comes to, cameras, tripods, the digital parts of cameras and the physical parts of cameras, I feel like I'm okay with most of those things. I could probably figure it out if I haven't done it before. Things like Photoshop and editing, I've definitely worked with before. It's the things like selecting internet-based photography practice to use in my classrooms and in my building that I'm unsure of, or things that, like, using the proper tools and the proper digital activities and resources that I'm not necessarily familiar with, that I would need instruction on, and how to properly embed them into my teaching and my resources and my instruction. I think that I am adept at engaging collaboratively and reflectively, but I mean, there's always room for improvement and room to learn. So I'm never not ready to learn. And I'm really hoping that that's what's going to happen with these course learning objectives. And finally, just from this course, I'm expecting to learn the ins and outs of photography. Obviously, photography has come a long way from being just simply taking photos. It never really was simply taking photos, but we all have this idea when we're younger that photography is just taking pictures and taking photos and pointing a lens and snapping a button. And I want to learn kind of everything, the ins and outs of it, and how to properly embed it in an educational setting and how to use it in instruction. So I hope that that's what we do this semester.